Historians can be inclined to hasten their readers through a subject's formative years, to rush to the point at which the interesting stuff begins. Yet what could be more fascinating than the circumstances of birth, the challenges of childhood, the rough-cut squares of a patchy quilt that somehow expand and self-embroider into the character we seek to know? Even more so, the odysseys of their forebears. For all the fierce, influential, indomitable men in John's life, it was women, for better, for worse, who dominated it. Paddle the shallows of his ancestry to find females on both sides of the family tree of great courage and resilience. Women who survived famine, estrangement from family, the hardship and upheaval of relocation, the tragedy of war, who were perennially pregnant, who bore a dozen or more babies, who died desperately in childbirth, who, broken by destitution and widowhood, relinquished care of infants to charitable institutions rather than watch their offspring starve. While women were to rule John's life, to varying degrees and with conflicting consequences, there are no distinguished female forebears in either line. How far back do you want to take it is the thing. Some biographers have trawled the DNA in an attempt to fish out beguiling ancestors whose own achievements might shed light on the origins of John's personality and talent. Eagerness to discover that genius is in the genes may have been what breathed life and colour into the notion that John Lennon's paternal great-grandfather James, described as a ship's cook and sometimes singer, emigrated from Liverpool to America, and that James's son John, also known as Jack, John's grandfather, found quasi-fame stateside during the late 19th century as a pre-civil rights, pre-abolition of slavery blackface minstrel. Robertson's Kentucky Minstrels was the troupe with which he is claimed to have toured, before about turning to the land of his father's birth and settling on Merseyside, where his American first wife would die in childbirth. How enthralling if all that were true. Alas, birth certificates and censuses of 1861, 1871 and 1901 indicate otherwise. Lennon law, like that of any other family, had long danced the length of fantasy beaches. Fable can prove tough to contradict. Rumour and supposition are seductive. There are still those inclined to believe shimmering legend, despite the unequivocality of fact. What is certain is that John's paternal great-grandparents James Lennon and Jane McConville were not born in Liverpool but in County Down, Ulster, in the north of Ireland, and that they crossed the Irish Sea with their families during the famine of 1845 to 1849, at a time when Ireland was still part of Britain. It remained so until 1922. James, a cooper and warehouseman, married Jane in Liverpool in 1849, when he was around 20 years of age. His bride was only 18. They were blessed with 8 or more children before Jane died in childbirth. Their son John, known as Jack, was born in 1855 and was our John Lennon's grandfather. Jack became a shipping clerk and bookkeeper and was a bit of a fly-by-night. He was a popular pub customer and often sang for his beer. He married Liverpool lass Margaret Cowley when he was 33 and fathered 4 offspring, only one of whom, a daughter, named Mary Elizabeth, survived. Her mother died during delivery of her sister, also named Margaret. Widowed Catholic Jack was soon living in sin with Protestant Mary Maguire, an illiterate, apparent psychic known as Polly. They produced 14 or 15 children, records vary, 8 of whom they lost, and were at last married in 1915, 3 years after the arrival of their son Alfred, John's father. Jack died in 1921 from cirrhosis of the liver when his little boy was 8 or 9 years old and afflicted with rickets, a childhood disease brought on by deficiency in vitamin D, causing the bones to soften and the legs to bow. Alf's own were for years encased in irons, which inhibited normal growth. Polly was too poor to support her family alone and was forced to surrender Alf and his sister Edith to the city's strictly Protestant Blue Coat School orphanage. Alf emerged the best educated of any previous Lennon and soon found gainful employment in a Liverpool shipping company.